March 15, 1955, 7:23 p.m. Vincent Morello's hands were trembling as he stood outside Bumpy Johnson's office on 125th Street. 24 hours ago, he was the proudest restaurant owner in Upper Manhattan. Now he was about to do something he never thought possible: beg a black man for forgiveness. Morello's restaurant had been in his family for 30 years. 3 generations of Italian cooking, a Harlem landmark. And in one night, Bumpy Johnson had brought it to its knees without throwing a single punch. The door opened. Bumpy sat behind his desk, calm as always, wearing a perfectly pressed charcoal suit. He didn't stand up. He didn't offer a handshake. He just looked at Morello with those eyes that had seen 1,000 men break. "I believe you have something to say to me." Morello's throat went dry. Yesterday he had called Bumpy Johnson a name that no white man in Harlem should ever say. Yesterday he had thrown Bumpy out of his restaurant in front of 50 people. Yesterday he thought he was untouchable. Today he was ruined. What nobody knew, what Vincent Morello would never fully understand, is that Bumpy Johnson had been waiting for this moment for 6 months. And what happened in those 24 hours didn't just destroy one man's pride. It sent a message that would echo through New York for decades. Now, before we get into this story, if you're new here and you love these Bumpy Johnson stories, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Let's get into it. To understand what happened that night, to understand why a proud Italian businessman ended up on his knees, begging a black gangster for mercy, you need to understand Harlem in 1955. You need to understand the invisible war being fought on every street corner. And you need to understand why Bumpy Johnson was the most dangerous man to disrespect in all of New York City. By 1955, Harlem was the center of Black America. It was where dreams were made and broken. It was where jazz filled the streets and hope filled the hearts of a people who had been told they were nothing. But Harlem was also a battlefield, a place where respect meant everything and disrespect could cost you your life. The neighborhood was changing. White business owners who had set up shop decades ago were watching their customer base shift. Black families were moving in, building communities, spending money. Smart businessmen adapted. They welcomed black customers, hired black workers, became part of the community. But some business owners couldn't let go of the old ways. They still had whites-only signs in their hearts, even if the law made them take down the ones in their windows. They served black customers because they had to. They took their money because business was business. But deep down, they believed they were better. And they made sure those customers knew they weren't truly welcome. A cold stare here, a muttered slur there, seats near the kitchen instead of by the window. These small cruelties added up. They were cuts that bled the dignity out of people drop by drop. And then there was Bumpy Johnson. By 1955, Bumpy had been the unofficial king of Harlem for over 2 decades. He ran the numbers, controlled the streets, and had connections that reached from City Hall to the 5 families. But what made Bumpy different from other gangsters was simple. He loved his community. Bumpy didn't just take from Harlem, he gave back. When families couldn't afford Christmas presents, Bumpy played Santa Claus. When young men needed jobs, Bumpy found them work. When the police got too aggressive, Bumpy made phone calls that made badges think twice. He was a criminal, yes, but to the people of Harlem, he was their criminal, their protector, their champion. And there was one thing Bumpy Johnson could not tolerate, one thing that would turn him from a businessman into a force of nature: disrespect. Not to himself. Bumpy could handle insults. He'd been called every name in the book. What Bumpy couldn't stand was disrespect to his people, to his community, to the dignity of black folks who deserved to be treated like human beings. Vincent Morello was the 3rd generation to run Morello's restaurant on 116th Street. His grandfather had opened it in 1925, his father had expanded it in the 40s, and Vincent had inherited it in 1952 when his father passed away. The restaurant was famous for its pasta, its wine list, and its old-world charm. Politicians ate there. Businessmen closed deals there. It was a Harlem institution. But Vincent Morello had a problem. He hated black people. He hid it well most days. He served black customers because he had to. He took their money because business was business. But deep down, Vincent believed he was better than them. He believed his restaurant was too good for them, and he'd been waiting for an excuse to make that clear. What Vincent didn't understand was that his restaurant survived on Harlem's economy. The black doctors, lawyers, businessmen, and entertainers who ate at his tables, the jazz musicians who came after shows, the church groups who held celebrations there. Without black customers, Morello's restaurant was just another Italian joint, and there were 100 of those in New York. Vincent also didn't understand something else, something more dangerous. He didn't understand that Bumpy Johnson had been watching him for 6 months. He didn't understand that Bumpy had heard the stories, the way Vincent talked about black customers when they left, the way he seated them in the back, the way he made them wait longer for their food. And Bumpy was waiting for Vincent to make a mistake, because when you disrespect the king's people, sooner or later, you're going to disrespect the king himself. And that's exactly what Vincent Morello was about to do. March 14th, 1955, 8:15 p.m. Bumpy Johnson walked into Morello's restaurant with 2 associates. He was dressed impeccably as always. Gray suit, silk tie, polished shoes. He walked in like he owned the place, because in Harlem, Bumpy Johnson owned everything. The hostess, a young Italian girl named Maria, recognized him immediately. Everyone in Harlem knew Bumpy Johnson's face. Her eyes went wide with a mix of fear and respect. "Mr. Johnson, welcome. Table for 3? Before Bumpy could answer, Vincent Morello appeared from the kitchen. He'd seen Bumpy walk in, and in that moment something snapped inside him. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was stupidity, maybe it was 30 years of hidden hatred finally boiling over. Whatever it was, Vincent Morello was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. "We don't serve your kind here." The restaurant went quiet. 50 people stopped eating. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Conversations died mid-sentence. Everyone knew who Bumpy Johnson was. Everyone knew what those words meant. Bumpy didn't move. His expression didn't change. He just looked at Vincent with those calm, patient eyes. "Excuse me?" Vincent stepped closer. His face was red. His hands were shaking, but not with fear, with anger, with decades of racist rage that he'd kept bottled up. "You heard me. I don't care who you think you are. I don't care how many people you've killed or how much money you have. This is my restaurant. My grandfather built it. My father built it. And I'm not going to have some—" He paused, and the word that came out of his mouth was the one word you never say to a black man, the one word that has started wars. "Sitting in my dining room like he belongs here. Get out, now." One of Bumpy's associates reached for his waistband. Bumpy raised a single finger. The associate stopped. Bumpy looked around the restaurant. He saw the shocked faces, the black customers who were frozen in shame and anger, the white customers who were looking at their plates, embarrassed. He saw Maria, the hostess, tears forming in her eyes, mouthing, "I'm sorry," from across the room. Then Bumpy did something that surprised everyone. He smiled. "Your grandfather built this place, you said?" "That's right," Vincent spat. 30 years. Bumpy nodded slowly. He straightened his tie. He brushed a piece of lint off his sleeve. And then he spoke 4 words that would haunt Vincent Morello for the rest of his life. "I'll see you tomorrow." Bumpy turned and walked out. His associates followed. The door closed behind them. And Vincent Morello stood there, chest puffed out, thinking he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. Here's the thing about Bumpy Johnson. He never walked into a situation blind. He never made a move without knowing exactly what would happen next. And he never, ever visited a business he hadn't already researched. Bumpy had known about Vincent Morello's racism for 6 months. He'd heard the stories from black customers who'd been mistreated. He'd received reports from his people about the things Vincent said when he thought no one important was listening. Bumpy had been building a file on Morello's restaurant. Who supplied their food? Who delivered their wine? Who did their laundry? Who collected their garbage? Who provided their insurance? When Bumpy walked into that restaurant, he wasn't looking for dinner. He was giving Vincent Morello a test, a chance to show who he really was. And Vincent had passed with flying colors. Now it was time for the lesson. 9 p.m., the same night. Bumpy made his first phone call from his office. It was to a man named Raymond Bishop, who ran the largest food distribution company in Upper Manhattan. "Raymond, Morello's restaurant. They don't get any more deliveries." "How long?" "Until I say otherwise." 9:15 p.m. Bumpy called Marcus Thompson, who controlled the linen service that supplied tablecloths and napkins to restaurants across Harlem. "Marcus, Morello's is off your route starting tomorrow." "Done." 9:30 p.m. A call went out to the sanitation workers who handled garbage pickup for businesses on 116th Street. Another call to the ice company. Another to the company that serviced the restaurant's refrigerators. Another to the electrician Morello's had on retainer. One by one, every service that kept Morello's restaurant running received the same message. Stop working with them. Effective immediately. 10 p.m. Bumpy made a different kind of call. This one went out to the community, to the churches, to the social clubs, to the barbershops and beauty salons where Harlem's gossip network lived and breathed. The message was simple. Vincent Morello had called Bumpy Johnson a racial slur and thrown him out of his restaurant. Pass it on. By midnight, every black person in Harlem knew what had happened. By morning, they would know what to do about it. March 15th, 1955, 6 a.m. Vincent Morello arrived at his restaurant feeling proud. He'd stood up to Bumpy Johnson. He'd shown everyone that he wasn't afraid. He unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and started preparing for the day. 7 a.m. The food delivery truck didn't come. Vincent called the supplier. The line was busy. He called again. Still busy. He sent his busboy to find out what was happening. 8 a.m. The linen service didn't show up. Neither did the ice delivery. Vincent started to feel a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. 9 a.m. The garbage from last night was still sitting in the alley. The garbage truck had driven right past. 10 a.m. Vincent opened the restaurant anyway. He had enough food for one day, enough clean linens to manage. He could handle this. But then something worse happened. Something Vincent hadn't expected. Nobody came. The lunch rush came and went. Not a single black customer walked through the door. That was 60% of his business. Gone. But it got worse. The white customers who usually came started getting phone calls from friends and business partners. "Did you hear what Morello did? He threw out Bumpy Johnson, called him the N-word. You might want to eat somewhere else today. Bumpy might be watching who goes in there." By noon, Vincent Morello was standing in an empty restaurant surrounded by food he couldn't serve, with dirty linens piling up and garbage rotting in the alley. And the day was just getting started. 2 p.m. The refrigerator broke down. Vincent called his repair guy. The phone just rang and rang. 3 p.m. Vincent tried to order from a different food supplier. They had him on a blacklist. He tried 3 more. Same answer. "We can't help you." 4 p.m. A health inspector showed up. Someone had called in a complaint about garbage in the alley. Vincent got a warning. One more violation, and he'd be shut down. 5 p.m. Vincent sat alone in his empty restaurant. The food in his broken refrigerator was starting to spoil. He had no clean tablecloths, no ice, no customers, and no way to fix any of it. That's when his cousin Tony came to visit. Tony worked on the docks. Tony knew how things worked in New York. "You're an idiot, Vincent. Do you know what you did? You insulted Bumpy Johnson, in public, with witnesses." "He's just a gangster. He can't do this to me." Tony laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Just a gangster? Bumpy Johnson controls Harlem. Every black business owner in this neighborhood owes him. Every service you use to run this restaurant, black-owned or black-connected. The food suppliers, the linen services, the garbage trucks, the repair guys, all of them answer to Bumpy, and right now, you're on his bad side. What am I supposed to do? You know exactly what you have to do. You have to apologize, and you better make it good, Vincent, because if you don't, this restaurant will be closed by the end of the week. 30 years, gone, because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. 7:23 p.m. Vincent Morello stood outside Bumpy Johnson's office. His pride was broken. His arrogance was gone. He was just a desperate man trying to save his family's business. He knocked. A large man opened the door, looked him up and down, stepped aside. Bumpy was sitting behind his desk. Same calm expression, same patient eyes, like he'd been waiting for this moment all day, because he had been. "I believe you have something to say to me." Vincent's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The words came out like they were being dragged across broken glass. I'm sorry. What I said was wrong. What I did was wrong. I was raised to think a certain way, and it was ignorant, and I'm asking you to forgive me. Please. My restaurant is all I have. My family built it. I can't lose it. Please, Mr. Johnson, I'm begging you. Bumpy didn't respond right away. He let the silence stretch. Let Vincent feel the weight of it. That word you used last night, have you ever thought about what it means? Where it comes from? The centuries of pain behind it? No, sir. I never thought about it. That's the problem, Mr. Morello. You never thought. You looked at me and saw a color. You didn't see a man. You didn't see a community. You saw something less than yourself. Bumpy stood up. But here's what you need to understand. I could have burned your restaurant to the ground last night. I could have had you beaten. I could have had you killed. That's what some men would have done. He walked around the desk, stood directly in front of Vincent. But violence is easy. Violence is what they expect from us. What I did to you was harder. I showed you that you need us more than we need you. I showed you that your success depends on our community. I showed you that respect isn't optional. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to reopen your restaurant. Your deliveries will come. Your services will resume. Your customers will return. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm not finished. Bumpy's voice hardened. You're going to hire 2 black waiters. You're going to hire a black cook. You're going to treat every customer who walks through your door with respect, regardless of their color. And every Sunday, you're going to donate $50 to the Harlem Community Fund. Not because I'm forcing you, because you want to be part of this community. Vincent nodded. Yes, I'll do all of it. And one more thing. Bumpy leaned in close. If I ever hear that word come out of your mouth again, if I ever hear that you've mistreated another black customer, if I even hear a rumor that you've gone back to your old ways. He paused. There won't be a second conversation. Do you understand me? I understand. I swear to you, Mr. Johnson. I understand. Bumpy stepped back. His expression softened. Just slightly. Then we're done here. Go save your restaurant. The story of what happened to Vincent Morello spread through New York like wildfire. By the next morning, every restaurant owner, every shopkeeper, every businessman in Harlem had heard the tale. A white man had disrespected Bumpy Johnson. And in 24 hours, without a single act of violence, Bumpy had brought him to his knees. The message was clear. Respect wasn't optional. Not in Harlem, not anymore. And Vincent Morello, he kept his word. He hired James Wilson and Robert Taylor as waiters. He brought in Dorothy Mae Johnson as a cook. Her fried chicken became one of the most popular dishes on the menu. Every Sunday, $50 went to the Harlem Community Fund. Sometimes more. But something else happened. Something nobody expected, least of all Vincent himself. He changed. Not overnight, not completely. But slowly, working alongside black employees, serving black customers who became regulars, becoming part of a community he'd always held at arm's length. Vincent Morello became a different man. 5 years later, when a group of white men tried to start trouble with a black couple eating at Morello's, it was Vincent himself who threw them out. "We don't serve your kind here," he told them. And this time, he meant racists. Morello's restaurant stayed open until 1978. When Vincent retired, he sold the building to one of his black employees at a price well below market value. His way of saying thank you, his way of making things right. And whenever anyone asked him about that night in 1955, Vincent would shake his head and say the same thing. "Bumpy Johnson taught me more in 24 hours than my father taught me in 30 years. He taught me that respect isn't about color, it's about humanity." This story became legend in Harlem. People told it for generations, not because it was about revenge, not because it was about power. They told it because of what it proved about Bumpy Johnson. See, Bumpy could have destroyed Vincent Morello. He had the power to do it. He had the right to do it. But instead, he chose to teach him. He chose to give him a chance to change. And in doing so, Bumpy showed the world something important. Real power isn't about how many people you can hurt. It's about how many people you can change. Bumpy Johnson understood that every person who disrespected black folks was an opportunity to show them who we really are, an opportunity to build bridges instead of burning them, an opportunity to win hearts and minds, not just battles. Vincent Morello walked into Bumpy's office a racist. He walked out a changed man. And that transformation, that redemption, was worth more than any punishment could ever be. In Harlem, respect wasn't given, it was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned his every single day, not with violence, not with fear, but with wisdom, with patience, with the understanding that the best victories are the ones where everybody wins. Look, if this story hit different, I need you to do me a favor. Smash that like button right now. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We're dropping Bumpy Johnson stories that will blow your mind, and you don't want to miss a single one. Drop a comment below and let me know. Could you have forgiven Vincent Morello, or would you have made him pay harder? I want to hear your thoughts. Next video, we're telling the story of the time Bumpy Johnson walked into a meeting with 5 Italian mob bosses unarmed and walked out with control of the entire Harlem numbers operation. They thought they were going to kill him. They ended up working for him. You're not going to want to miss that one. Remember, Bumpy Johnson didn't just run Harlem. He protected it. He changed it. He made it better. And that's why we're still telling his stories today. Until next time, stay blessed, stay dangerous, and always, always demand respect.